Difficult to break into tech when you don't have a tech background. And I mean, a lot of recruiters.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into the industry. In this episode, we have a very special guest with us. Hi Deepika, welcome to the industry.
Hey, hi Tej. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, we are looking forward to this exciting conversation. So Deepika, why don't you just introduce yourself to our viewers out there?
Sure. Hey everyone. So I'm Deepika. I am currently working as a senior product designer at an edtech company called Scalar. I've been into the design field for about close to 3 years now, and I've made a career switch from a extremely non-tech background into a tech background, and I think I'm loving every day of it. I'm, looking forward to this conversation with Tej.
That's wonderful, Deepika. So could you please walk us through your wonderful journey from totally not being any tech side, like you were a CA before, and then you transitioned to a designer now. So how's this journey so far, and what are the different learnings? If you could walk us through, it would be really wonderful.
Sure, I'd love to. So I started in 2020. I began my journey of transitioning in 2020. I think throughout my previous career, as a chartered accountant, what I realized was that, content consumption in the form of visuals was very important. Uh, in the finance industry, everything is written in documents and lengthy, uh, you know, scripts that you have to go through. And I used to really work on trying to make all of that a lot more consumable by, turning them into very good presentations. That's when I think somewhere I started to really like design. I think I had this knack even back in school where I used to, put in a lot of efforts making my projects. And the last 6 months as a CA, I was, figuring out what to do with my career. I had second doubts about how I want to go ahead with my CA career. Wasn't, every day didn't feel very fulfilling. Couldn't see myself doing, being in the finance industry for the next 20, 30 years of my life. And I came across UX design, and to be honest, like probably because of how there's a lot of skepticism around getting into the art industry, or doing something other than traditional career paths. So I had absolutely no clue what UX design was, and you could actually have a career in it. But once I started to, read a little more about it, I thought, why not give it a shot? I was anyway contemplating, my next career path ahead. So I decided I'll give this, a 6 month shot, and we'll see, how it goes. If I'm really able to catch up with things, if I'm actually enjoying it, and then, but hopefully, thankfully it turned out really well. And those 6 months was when, I think what really worked for me was getting the right mentor, or talking to people who have been in the industry. I think first month I struggled trying to, there's so much content online. I was overwhelmed with what all I could consume. I probably signed up for like 18 courses at a time, but didn't know which one is actually going to add value to me, which one is going to end up, helping me with a job ultimately. And that's when I realized getting a mentor is what, would really help me course correct my entire learning journey. I get like a lot of guidance in terms of what to learn, what the industry expects, how does a job look like. uh, so then I got connected with two, three mentors. One was from Amazon. I think now he runs a boot camp. So Anudeep, who runs Growth School, I was, his first mentee, and then I also got a little mentorship from people working in Walmart. Then also somebody who was working at a small scale startup. So I think mentorship was the true game changer, because it really helped me understand which path I'm supposed to take and how I'm supposed to go about the entire thing. I think what mentorship also, I'll give you a little more context of how mentorship worked for me. It wasn't something that, they would, hold my hand and ask me to do this, do that, this is how you, like, it was not like a very micromanaged mentorship, I would say. It would be probably uh, calls twice, thrice a week. So I would just bombard them with all my doubts and then ask them what are their insights, how should I go about this or that. So I think I did take a couple of courses online. Definitely would suggest Interaction Design Foundation. It's a great place for beginners. Then I actually read a couple of books. One was Creative Confidence, which actually broke a lot of stereotypes about how you have to be a very creative person to get into any creative field. So must read. And then I read a little bit of Design of Everyday Things, and then a couple of more books to understand how UX works. But that was just the UX part of it. I think at the same time, I had to really develop my UI skills as well. Surprisingly, I started with Photoshop, which kind of, made me take a step back that, okay, do I really want to do this? And then I discovered Figma. I think Figma is fairly new. People were using Sketch, Adobe XD, and then when I came across Figma, I was like, okay, wow, this is so much easier to do. So I think I started to develop better interest, and I could practice a lot more with a lot more interest because of Figma. I would definitely give it a lot of credit. But then I think what my mentors told me is to replicate your favorite designs, and go through apps that you use on a daily basis and replicate their screens. I think that is something that really helped me not just understand how to make UI, but also understand a lot of logic behind why certain elements are placed at certain places. It I could start then connecting what I read, what courses I took, and actually start putting them onto the screen. So that was super. I mean, and then I started replicating certain designs from Dribble, or taking up very good websites from awards. So this was my entire exercise while I was trying to practice UI. I think even now I sometimes do that, um, because you have to get upgraded with the latest design trends. So I go browse whatever is latest. Am I able to replicate that into my UI designs or not? How difficult is it? And then it's eventually starts coming naturally to you. It also helps speed in your UI design process. It earlier I would struggle to figure out how to even put up one screen together. It would take me hours together. But then a lot of practice, doing that every day again and again, really speeds up your process, and then you can explore a lot more things. So this was around my entire how I was practicing and how I learned a couple of things. Then I was fortunate to hop onto a little bit of side projects of my mentors. So I think that gave me some exposure in terms of how actual work goes about. So I did freelance for a client who was based in the US. They were setting up a dashboard, and they just needed quick help in terms of drawing out the flows of the entire product, and on a little help on the UI side as well. So I think that gave me a lot of insights into how products actually work, how it is when you're dealing with somebody giving you a requirement. How does a design requirement come to you? How do you solve problems? So I think that was my second major, I think, breakthrough into how I could take this career forward. And last, when freelancing was something that I knew I couldn't be. It's not an easy path to take. I'd already been close to 6 months into my break, and then now I started to feel the pinch that okay, I need to start making some serious money out of this. I wanted to get into a full-time role, um, and that's when I started to work on my portfolio. So I think third huge uh, thing that you have, I mean, I would suggest everyone breaking through into tech or design is building your portfolio. Um, I did take a project which was, I mean, it was a dummy project. It wasn't something that I actually had. I decided to revamp booking.com. And that was a very interesting project. I tried to my first draft, if I go back and look now, is I would say really substandard. But I got it reviewed by so many other fellow designers, people outside of design, and I think that entire feedback is what I incorporated and made it into a much more very thorough design portfolio project. And I think that's what we end up doing every day at office also, at work. Probably your first design or your first draft or your first solution to the problem that you're solving is nowhere close to what you finally give. There's a lot of feedback involved, whether it's peer-to-peer feedback or it's feedback from your users or feedback from stakeholders. I think that's very, very vital. And I think that also made me understand that you don't get your designs perfect in the first go. It's always a iterative process. It's not, I mean, I had this issue with, getting it all perfect in the first go. And that would also help lead me into a lot of procrastination because, until I get it perfect, I wouldn't jump onto it. But huge learning from this while I was working on my portfolio was that design is an iterative process. It's not something that you get it at the first go. And then I did a couple more projects which were a lot smaller, try to address how some of my projects were very specific to UI, how which would display my UI skills. Some were which showed my UX skills more in terms of like problem solving, a little bit of research, and how I would go about really breaking down the problem at hand. So I had a mix of like 3, 4 projects. Some I actually took through, while I was interviewing. There were a lot of assignments that were given to me. I, in fact, turned those assignments into case studies. I went above and beyond after the entire interview process and, turned it into a full-fledged project. And then, I mean, my entire job searching phase was a struggle. I'll be very candid and honest about it. It's very difficult to break into tech when you don't have a tech background. And I mean, a lot of recruiters would just not process my resume, thinking that probably, she's applied by mistake here. She's come from a CA background. I think this is something that's not doesn't look like a portfolio that, I mean, a profile that we would actually process. They would actually ask me, are you sure you want to be applying for this position? You seem to have a different background. I used to even get suggestions around, you should remove your previous experience. Don't show what you've studied, or, just show the certificates that you have probably from different courses. And but I didn't do that. It was a struggle to get through the recruiters. I mean, that initial first phase. I think networking on LinkedIn was something that really, really helped. I connected with a lot of designers, kept asking them if there were open positions, or if they would even consider me for any internship role, or probably at least just help me or guide me in terms of how I should go about it. Then I finally landed a job as on a at a very early stage startup, and they wanted a designer who would, build their product from 0 to 1. They didn't really have a product. They wanted somebody who would bring it to some level, give it shape. Um, and I worked there as their only product designer. They had graphic designers before, but I was their first product design hire, and I was the only product designer there. So that was a very interesting um, role as well. That 1 year was very interesting, full of learnings. No one to really guide you at work, but I think there's a lot of self learning involved, which is also very, very helpful. And then towards once I'd built the product, after a year, I did start to feel the need that I need to work with a slightly a bigger team. I want someone to mentor me or at least guide me on a day-to-day basis. Things felt, I mean, I was at that point in my career where I needed someone to handhold me a little bit at least. So then I started exploring jobs where where they had a slightly big team, also worked on a very high impact product. And that's when I joined Scalar. And I think it's been a little more than a year now. And I think it's wonderful there. I've grown so much over there, and every single day is a learning. I've gotten to work on multiple products, gotten to lead a small team as well. So I think uh, the journey has been beautiful. I don't regret even a single day of making this switch.
Thank you so much, Deepika, for sharing this wonderful journey. It clearly shows like perseverance and grit is what brought you till here. And thanks for detailedly sharing us the overall process. It would really help someone to transition from a non-tech to tech background. So it's absolutely great on that. So wanted to understand in terms of when you were searching for a job, you mentioned it was quite tough for you to, find a right job for you. So what are your tips and learnings out of the whole job search process?
Uh, I think, I mean, big takeaway that I would have during a job search is, leveraging LinkedIn as much as possible. There are a lot of folks. I mean, don't rely on only job boards and postings that are there on your different job boards that are there. That is a source to figure out who is hiring. But I think you should dig a little deeper. Firstly, understand the company and the product. Just don't go by, okay, this company is hiring, this is a big name. Try and understand, do you really want to even work for that kind of a company, or does it suit your profile? uh, and then start networking with the team that works there. uh, I feel design as an industry and as a community is really nice, very open. They Senior designers keep wanting to give back to the community, so I feel don't hesitate to reach out to designers. In fact, even a lot of times when we receive profiles, we receive them through LinkedIn. They reach out to us directly. So usually through job board, what I realized is that it goes into a black hole. A lot of people apply through that. But then connecting with the team on LinkedIn really does help. I mean, it may not guarantee your job, but it gives you a lot of insights. I mean, they will tell you what kind of profile they're looking for. Some may be really glad to hop on a quick call to explain their expectations and what they would be looking out in our profile. Maybe even review your profile and portfolio. So I think that definitely leverage LinkedIn. Uh, it's what helped me.
So, Deepika, if you want to redo this whole process, now that you have 3 years of experience, what better could you have done now?
I think when I started off, boot camps were not really, I mean, there were very few boot camps that had started, especially in India. Uh, I think what one very good thing that boot camps do is they give you a structured way of learning. So I would either probably join a boot camp from day one, or at least jump into mentorship from day one, rather than trying to get my hands dirty on a lot of things. That would definitely, I feel, save time. Second is, I think, I would probably be a lot more active within the community. The community gives so much for beginners. So I think joining, there are a lot of channels that are run. There is a lot of communities that are there. I think uh, so. Joining them a little early on, being active on them, is something that I would definitely do. Then I think, in terms of UI, I think I would probably practice a lot more. There are things that you discover, of course, once you join, once you start actually working on a product. But probably if I had done a few more things, in terms of if I had learned a lot more, hooks and tricks in UI, I think I would initial couple of months, during when I started work, I did struggle a little. So I think I would uh, really polish that skill a lot more before getting into a job. And I think lastly would be, getting rid of the imposter syndrome that a lot of beginners or a lot of career transitioners have. There was always a lot of fear, and uh, you're not comfortable initially, that what if you get called out, or people are not really going to take you seriously, nobody's going to listen to you. You've no experience in this field, you have not studied this background, how uh, are you valuable? I mean, you tend to question yourself a lot. I think that is something I would now get work on it and get rid of it lot sooner than later, because I think it just pushes you back in your career. There are a lot of them out there, and I think everyone is trying to figure things out, and uh, learn every day. So I think that is something that I would do if I had to start again.
That's very wonderfully said, Deepika. Especially the imposter syndrome. Thanks for touching upon that as well. So, wanted to understand, you have recently started making content to share the knowledge and all. So, what made you do that? What made you get it started?
I think when I started, I there were very few designers out there who I could really relate to, who had probably treaded the same journey. I used to go on a hunt on LinkedIn to figure out that has anyone from a finance background moved into design, or so. I mean, there were definitely a lot of people out there, but there's very less visibility unless I went out and searched for them. I think. I wanted to solve for that problem, and probably pacify uh, young beginners out there, or rather career transitioners out there, that it is doable, and it's possible. I really wanted to give back to the community how I received it, and probably just break that entire stereotype around uh, career transition. And also, I think I saw a little content, not a lot of content out there, in terms of what actually happens at workplace. There's a lot of theoretical content out there, which is definitely helpful. uh, you absolutely need it when you're learning design, but there is a different picture once you work at a workplace. A lot of other things that you have to do at a workplace. So I think that was my whole idea. Uh, so yep, that's why I started my channel.
Yes, and adding on top of that is once you start sharing every day, it's like a new learning as well. So the more you share, the more you learn as well. So it's a better way of giving back and learning from the folks as well. So that's a great point, Deepika. Now let's conclude on the topic. What are your favorite recommendations of podcasts and books for the young designers, and how could they utilize it to their full potential, like how you did?
So I think my top recommendations when I have to come to podcasts is Design Thinking 101. I think they interview a lot of designers, design leaders out there. You definitely are going to get a lot of insights. Another thing that I do suggest designers out there is to get a little more into product, so that you do understand things from a little more business point of view, a lot more holistic view of the product and not just the design aspect of it. So I would suggest this podcast called the Product Post Podcast. So I think a lot of you'll get to learn a lot and get different perspective in terms of how in general products are thought through. Uh, and coming to book recommendations, I think if you are just starting out or just thinking about moving into design or changing your career, do read Creative Confidence. I think it'll help you break a lot of stereotypes around having to be creative. Then, if you have to learn a little more about design, I think a design of everyday things is great. If you don't have the time to read that book, definitely read a lot of articles and videos on NN Group. I think they have their stand like whatever design standards and best practices that they have recommended on their website is extremely thorough and backed by a lot of research. And then if you have to do really dig deep into UI, then there's About Face. I mean, I still haven't finished reading that. I think I wouldn't call it a book. It's more of a textbook. And you can start from anywhere in between. But it's an amazing book. Gives you a lot of insights in terms of the reasoning or the logic behind why certain design elements are designed in a particular manner.
Thank you so much, Deepika, for sharing all these wonderful insights and recommendations with us. So, folks who are watching this video, I'll be attaching Deepika's IG as well. If you have any doubts of a mentorship, you can reach out to Deepika. And yeah, thanks once again, Deepika, for coming here and then sharing all your wonderful insights with us.
Thank you, Tej, for hosting me. It's really been an honor. I think I have been following you when I started my design journey, and feels great that I could come on to your channel and have a chat with you. It's absolutely a pleasure.